I'm Ragged Bo Cane Talk, the disembodied Kentuckian. And I've been thinking about doing something like this for a long time. I've got a background in the media, I won't go into it. But as an exile from Kentucky, I'm a sixth generation Kentuckian, 6.5 actually. And the longer I'm away, the more I understand myself as a Kentuckian. And the more I understand the fissures and conflicts and true strengths and nobility of this country, I see through the view of a Kentuckian of the border state. Kentucky has got much more in common with California than our friends would really want to believe, because you know what? The New Madrid fault that runs underneath Kentucky is far more huge and precarious than the San Andreas fault that people of spite have been praying to let loose and dump California into the ocean for many years. But you know what? I'm not talking to people I'm ever gonna convince of anything. I'm talking to the people who already are sympathetic vibration, and it's for our mutual heartening. And I feel closer to some of y'all I haven't seen in many years, touched fingertips with, and oh dear God, I feel closer to people back home than I ever did. I never left, but I love it here too. And I'm going to tell you about these different connections, and one of them is that Gavin Newsom and these are two of the best people in American politics, and proud to be a Kentuckian with Andy Beshear as governor. We've got a lot to answer for. Oh, Mitch McConnell has sold our asses out. He didn't think it'd go this far. He thought he could put, and I just wanted to state the basic thesis of my channel here. It's like sit and chat, or fart and chat, or pick and chat, whatever I'm up to at the moment, for friends who, it's just for hanging out, kitchen table stuff. If it takes off beyond that, because I think that when the outside world looks in Kentucky, they don't know the Kentucky I know. They do not. And the real heart of Kentucky to me is really more progressive in an authentic way than would be comfortable for a lot of Hollywood people I've met out here, I'm telling you. Because we've seen what we understand intuitively, for one reason or another, what this fissure of racism and how if you look at anybody in a category as being a property or different, or as an object, that's for the convenience of the people in power at the moment. And there are just a bunch of real dumbass pseudo-Christians out there who are the equivalent, ironically, of the rabble at Circus Maximus in Rome, where they were feeding Christians to the lions for the amusement of people who voted for Donald Trump. Now, there's some people who didn't really get it, or they weren't informed, and I've met them now, and now I kind of understand it. And it's really a sympathetic position to be in if you're saying, whoa, 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 I didn't see what he's doing coming, because you know why? You're fucking like just running a hamster wheel trying to keep your shit together, and you put your best foot forward thinking to vote is a good thing. And here's what I've picked up. It's a vibe. I've only got so much time and energy. I'm not a political scientist, and you may have voted for that, and that I understand. I've talked to quite a few people, and my heart goes out to them, and forgive them for they knew not what they do. But for the rest of you fuckers who think that this is anything but barbarism, and blood sport and bloodlust and hatred, how do you think it will not come back on you? All right, namaste. Now I want to go on to something. I'm in Los Angeles. Not exactly in Los Angeles, but I'm in Los Angeles County. And a friend or two here and there has called up and said, hey man, are you okay in the middle of all this, you know, fucking crazy masked, gigantic people hopping around with guns and shit? And yes and no. And I really want to put this into perspective, because a Kentuckian of intelligence and conscience who seeks truth, because we've lived on the fucking fault line, the New Madrid fault line, and the fault line between enslavement, black people overtly slaved, white people enslaved. It just wasn't quite so obvious, but everyone ensnared in a web of hatred injected from without. And that's something we can heal. So here's why I want to impress upon my Kentucky brothers and sisters, cousins and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews, all of you, why this line between Kentucky and California is so utterly crucial to understand. Why is there this, residual hatred of the federal government in some pockets of Kentucky? They don't know why. They just intuitively, they've heard it so many times. Oh, Al Gore, him and the internet. Oh, Al Gore, he's thought we're all right. It's just like, people think it's a joke because it's safe and they can chew the same old fucking cud. But that's a long time ago. That's why I'm in exile. So, in roughly the middle of the Civil War, and this is a collaborative effort between me and the friends I'm reaching out to, because I know there's like a half dozen people who are going to find this, something to help me build a kind of a little energy around. Well, the Confederates couldn't tip Kentucky over, except the fuckheads in the western part of the state really did turn Confederate. And the Confederates resorted to, they needed food because their shit was falling apart, because, basically a system based on slavery. Slaves do not have a whole lot of incentive to fight, and if that's 90% of your population, well, pop goes the fucking weasel, right? So then, what was that fucker's name? Morgan's Raids. He was just like a brigand terrorist running up there, inflicting havoc on shit. Unfortunately, because that's all they could do, is just cause trouble and steal food. That was the best they could do. And that's Confederates, that is. So unfortunately, as the war was winding down, feds sent in, and Kentucky was a pretty solidly Union place, Louisville certainly, but they sent in Union soldiers, and they occupied parts of the state that and treated them as if they had been collaborators. It was a bungled bunch of shit. And that was when Kentucky became really, we were not a Confederate state. We were a neutral state, because that was the best they could cut. I think they would rather have gone with a union, but the lesser of all evils was to be neutral. Well, there's always a price for that. But historicity has a backlash boomerang effect. and the motherfuckers who really have been at this. I mean, I'll give a really tedious fucking lecture on this one of these days, but I'll trace it back to Lycurgus, the emperor, and tell you where it went bad. But I'm just gonna say that the other horrible, great moral stain that Kentucky has is not merely slavery, but the fact that they broke up families and sold their slaves down the river in cold-blooded indifference to mothers and brothers and sisters and fathers. They tore asunder every strand of unity among people that humans need. And these fuckers, it's all because they live by bread alone, but only to a point. And fucking Elon literally wants to extract our spinal fluid so he can make like jet fuel out of it and go to Mars and propagate the rest of the universe because he thinks he's Adam. People are evil. But the big sin that is being committed again here in front of my eyes, and I think it's my karma because however many generations ago, I'm from a slave-holding family, and I truly believe a lot of the stuff that hadn't gone quite right for me in life is unpurified slaveholder karma. But when I see, you know, it's actually, and it's in no way abstract for me, because someone I consider one of my closest family members, perhaps my closest, is from another country. And she lived here for a long time, and she didn't get her citizenship. She should have. And I have another Kentucky friend, hi Glenn, who's in a similar situation, but he lives in Spain, and he's married to a Spanish lady. And his friends, as I would say, have been warning them, do not come back here, don't bring her back here, she is not safe. My friend, I must say relative, told me of someone she knows that a Spanish lady who came to Florida with her 9-year-old child. Her last name is Sanchez. There's an accent on the E normally. Does that name ring a bell, Sanchez? Do you think that the other Sanchez who just flew halfway to the moon and back and got out with her, you know, eyes and her Botox all in the right place would have this problem? But this other Sanchez, and Sanchez is also one of the 4 names of my friend here, whose name is, well, that's Don Quixote shit, all right? But the lady I'm speaking about, whom I don't know personally, there's an accent on the E on her passport, and there's a visa or some other document, and the only inconsistency is the accent on the E. And they detained her, like, for some time, terrified the child, separated her from the child, and they were going to detain the child, make her go back and get documentation and come back for her child, but somehow they backed off that shit. Now, there is no logic to it, and now I'm really talking to my friends, but I think it's very important that someone with as big a mouth as me, who's finally gotten over their fear of saying shit, needs to. So, in order to give you, and there's absolutely no